This is Extra Paycheck Podcast, episode number 31.
You're listening to Extra Paycheck Podcast, where you will learn how to build and grow your own successful online business. Now, here's your host, Alex Soul.
Welcome to yet another episode of Extra Paycheck Podcast. This is episode number 31, and in today's episode, I will be talking about another very important aspect of online business, or any business for that matter, and it's motivation, or more specifically, the lack of motivation. If you've ever tried to start a business or to work for yourself, simply try to be self-employed, you probably already know that lack of motivation is something that happens to most of us, and it happens rather often, unfortunately. And in some cases, people even quit their businesses and they stopped the project. They stopped doing whatever they wanted to do simply because they felt like they were not motivated enough, or they thought that they were lacking motivation. That's exactly what today's episode is all about. Now, before I dive into the details of motivation and getting motivated, I'd like to point out that sometimes we confuse the motivation with procrastination. So they might seem very similar, but it's, as you know, two completely different things. The confusion comes from mostly the fact that we can easily get distracted, especially when working online, working in front of the computer. You get YouTube at a click of a button, then you have Facebook, and of course you have to refresh the feed and see what your friends are up to. And this is the time that you could be spending working on your project, building your business, but somehow we're always tempted to click on some of those magical links and just waste our whole days looking at images of cats and listening to music and looking at funny videos of some sort. So first of all, when you think you're lacking motivation, make sure it's not the procrastination that is occupying your time, rather than lack of motivation itself. This is a very important one, and you need to draw the line between the two. Now, the lack of motivation. This happens most of the time to me personally. I'll be sharing my personal ways of dealing with it and getting motivated. So I usually lose motivation when I keep doing something and I don't see any results, or I don't see the results that I expected to see. For instance, spending a lot of time creating a good blog post and not seeing the shares or the comments or even the number of views that you expect to see for the specific article, especially when you work really, really hard on coming up with a good subject line and then, coming up with great content and making images and doing whatever it takes to make a great article that everybody would love, and then just figuring out that nobody loves that article. The same goes to any kind of content creation, not just, blog articles. It could be even that podcast that you're listening to right now. Sometimes it's really hard to come up with a good guest or come up with good content for the podcast, and sometimes I do create what I think is a great episode and I just don't get enough listens or enough shares, and it kind of breaks that motivation, and you start asking yourself, should I keep doing that? Is there a reason to keep doing that, since people don't seem to care so much about the content that I put out or the specific piece of content? And yeah, that sucks when that happens, but you have to keep pushing through it and keep putting out more content, and maybe start looking into the reasons why people are not listening or reading or sharing. Maybe the content does not work as well as you think it does. Maybe you simply didn't put in enough effort of exposing people to that content. Or there could be so many different reasons. At this moment, I am battling with some technical issues for this podcast, and I'm not really sure what's going on. But I see the iTunes store is not updating all my episodes all the time. It's really, really random, and sometimes the iTunes store shows all of my episodes. Sometimes they just show like 20 episodes out of 30 or 31 right now, since I'm recording the 31st episode. And I'm not quite sure what's going on, and it's really annoying and frustrating since nobody really knows the answer to what's going on. And it does break into the motivation, but I know that I should keep on looking for the solution. And, eventually I'll find the reason why the podcast feed is not being updated properly. It could be just a simple issue with iTunes itself, but, there's no way of knowing at this moment. But I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing simply because of some technical glitches. I'll get to the roots of it and I'll find out what's going on. So there are certain things that I do to keep me motivated, or at least I try to do them, and usually it works well. And in this episode, I'd like to share some of these, some of the tips, some of the techniques that I use and that you could try out to help you stay motivated and to help you battle that lack of motivation, as we call it. So let's go. Number one is setting a list of goals that you want to accomplish. Now, this could be good goals and small goals. Well, I suggest to write down your major goals, your main goals, and then break them down into smaller term goals. So let's say you want to be financially independent. That's an amazing goal, but it would be a lot better if you wrote down what exactly does it mean to you to be financially independent? How much money would that mean for you to call yourself financially independent? And it shouldn't be a number that just, comes to your head like, oh, I want to make like $20,000 a month, then I'll be financially independent. That's not a good goal. A good goal is when you actually calculate and spend a lot of time figuring out what exactly amount would be a good amount for you to make. So you could sit down and write down all your expenses on all your expected expenses. So let's say you could start with writing down your rent, which is, let's say, $1,000 per month. Then your car rental or whatever fees, your car financing fees, which is, let's say, $500. Then $150 insurance. Then you should calculate your grocery bills. Let's say you're spending $400 a month. Then you want to go out several times a week or several times a month, and you write down how much money you spend on average when you go out to a restaurant, to a bar, to see your friends, regardless, whatever it is that you do. And once you figure out all the expenses, then you add on the savings that you would like to have, which usually people try to aim for at least 10% of their income. And once you have that number figured out, this is when you could start setting it as a goal. So let's say your goal is to make $11,000 a month. This is the goal that you should set, and this is a long-term goal. So don't expect to make whichever amount you're desiring to make starting tomorrow. This is a long-term goal, and you should give yourself a reasonable time to achieve that goal. Let's say you could set a year aside and be like, okay, in 1 year, I will be making this much money, and that money will make me financially independent, or it will just make me happy and make me feel like I have achieved the financial success that I'm aiming for. Now, you should also take this goal and break it down to different timelines, different, by months, by weeks, whichever is easier for you. Because if it takes you a year or 2 years or 3 years to achieve your ultimate goal, it's really, really hard to stay motivated because the time is of the essence here. You might be working really, really hard for 5 months and you don't see a lot of improvement, and you start getting upset and you'll see your motivation wearing off. But if you know that you want to make, let's say $3,000 a month within the first half a year, and you're getting to that goal, then it makes everything easier and it makes you more motivated. And once you start seeing progress, you will actually get a lot more motivated because you'll understand that things are working. So number one, make a long-term goal. Number two, make short-term, smaller, more achievable goals. Step number three is writing down a list of reasons why you want to achieve what you want to achieve. So, for instance, you want to leave your office job. You don't want to go back to a 9 to 5, and you should write it down, and you should write down all the reasons why you never want to do that. And whenever you feel like you're lacking motivation, you could just pick up those reasons and read through them and just imagine yourself not having to go to the 9 to 5, not having to be stuck in traffic for 2 hours on the way to work and 2 hours on the way back home. It doesn't have to apply to, only financial goals or business. It could apply to your life. It could be applied to health. It could be applied to anything. So, the same goes to, let's say signing up to a gym and actually going to the gym twice a week, 3 times a week, whatever you decide to go. So if you're overweight and, you write down the list of reasons why you want to lose weight or why you want to get in shape or why you want to be healthier. So you write down all these reasons, and whenever you feel like slacking off and not going to the gym, just pick up the list of reasons, read through them, and imagine yourself as you have already achieved those goals. Imagine as you have already lost the 40 pounds, or imagine that you have gained the 40 pounds of muscle. And I guarantee that this will make you feel better. This will give you the motivation, and that imagining the final result usually helps pushing through whatever it is, as I just mentioned, life goals, health goals, financial goals, whatever they are. So writing down the reasons why you want to achieve whatever you want to achieve really helps for staying motivated. Now, another step that I take is number 4, I guess, in this list. And I do this when I get really discouraged and I am really, really, really lacking motivation. What I would do is spend some time listening or reading or watching success stories. And this helps a lot because oftentimes we underestimate ourselves. And when we hear success stories, we think, well, this guy, had something extraordinary. And we try to come up with all sorts of excuses to not do what we want to do simply because it's hard to do. If life was that easy, only if the life was that easy. So what I tend to do sometimes is that I would open up YouTube and I would seek out success stories that would truly inspire me and motivate me. Often I listen to podcasts, and I could give you a suggestion here is A Smart Passive Income by Pat Flynn or Entrepreneur on Fire by John Lee Dumas. Really, really great inspirational and motivational podcasts, which help me a lot, and they help me get through the day sometimes. And oftentimes the guests on this podcast, they share stories, incredible stories, and you realize that those folks are just normal people. They're just like you and I. They are not extraordinary people, but they're people with motivation. They're people with a goal in mind. They're people who work hard and who work consistently. Consistency is another key to success, and you'll figure out that all the success stories, or most of the success stories, are because of that. They happen because of consistency, not because those people have something special or incredibly amazing that you don't have. The people are consistent and they work really, really hard. This is how they are able to achieve the goals. No matter how big their goals and their dreams are, they live that life simply because they don't give up. And listening to these kind of stories, it could be funny to some people. Some people don't get it. And sometimes I would show some motivational stories and some success stories to my friends, and they're like, they just don't get it. They don't understand why I would watch something like that. And they would always try to come up with something. Yeah, but this guy did that, or he started a business back in the day when it was easier, or he had an amazing idea. And that's not true. Look at Facebook. It wasn't started that long ago. Look at Instagram. Look at any new businesses. They didn't start that long ago. They didn't start in the 80s or 70s. So the time doesn't really matter. It's, you could always start a business. Now, the idea, having an amazing idea in itself is worth nothing at all. Acting up on that idea, this is what matters. And I'm sure you have amazing ideas every single day, but if you don't act on those ideas, of course, nothing is going to happen. So, once again, being consistent, working hard, and, going after your goals, going after your dreams, and once again, staying motivated, that helps. So, connecting with those kind of stories helps me a lot. And I often suggest it to other people. Just, if you haven't already tried out, there are lots and lots of amazing stories that you could find on YouTube, online, on different podcasts, you could even buy books if that's your thing and read the books with success stories. Amazing stuff. And it helps me a lot. I'm pretty sure it could help some of my listeners as well. Another thing that helps is having a plan B. The truth is that our plans and our goals don't always work out the way we want them to work out. And it's not a bad idea to have a plan B, to have something else that you could do or jump into. And this goes back to putting all your eggs into one basket. If you know my story, you probably know that back in 2010, I think I lost my blog and I lost a lot of my income, for a few different reasons. But one of the reasons was that most of my income was coming from the same place. It was coming from the same channel, and then it just stopped working, and, I lost almost everything. And that does not motivate you at all. This gets you depressed, and then you just don't do anything sometimes for years to come because you work hard on building something. And when that something stops working, it's nerve-wracking, right? So it's not a bad idea to always have a side project or, another big project, and to try to diversify things, to diversify your income, for instance. This is really, really important and a really smart idea. So always be on the lookout for another kind of project that you could do, or a sideline income that you could create for yourself, which eventually could be scaled to a full-time business or a full-time income. That's super important. And once again, if you look at success stories, if I remember this correctly, all of the billionaires in the US have at least 7 streams of income. Think about that. Once again, they have at least 7 places where money comes from. And usually it's a business, it's real estate, it's investments, it's, different things the money comes from. And you should be working towards that as well. So having a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, this is really important, and it will help your motivation a lot. When one of your projects stops working suddenly, or it dies down, or, there's some kind of a setback, you always have other projects. You have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D working for you, so that your main plan A, if it goes sour, it's not going to bite you too hard, and you'll be able to keep on moving. Another thing that you could do to get motivated and to help you keep moving is actually getting help. It's reaching out to people who, let's say, have achieved what you want to achieve. It's reaching out to coaches. It's reaching out to someone who will help you move forward. Sometimes it could be as simple as reaching out to a friend and asking the friend to force you to report to them on all of your progress. Another thing, what you could do is going public, meaning that you will publish all your success and your plans and your progress. Let's say you're planning to put out 10 pieces of content every single month. And you could start a Facebook page or a blog and let as many people as you can know about that blog, and keep track of everything you do. Every day, or a few times a week, you will share updates and you will explain what you have done this week, or in a specific day, what kind of work you did, and what did you do to get some kind of progress, to get some kind of results for your business or for your health, or whatever it is that you're working on, whatever your goal is. So being accountable and kind of letting other people know what you're doing it's a really hard one. I'll be honest with you. It's really, really hard to make your goals and your actions public, because you will have to answer for them. So if you tell people, okay, I'll make 20 videos and post them on YouTube this month, then you don't really have a choice. You can't procrastinate. You can't find excuses for yourself and not do it. You'll have to do it because you came out and you said it to everyone. You made the announcement public and you said, okay, this is what I'll do. And you'll have to stick to your words. And a lot of people will never do that, will never do a public announcement like that because they know deep inside that this kind of takes away the reason to procrastinate. It takes away a lot of their freedom, I guess, in a way, of freedom of not doing anything instead of freedom of taking action and actually, once again, moving forward and pushing through to achieve your goals. And this is something that I am not doing either, and I'd like to do that. And I guess I'm kind of scared for the same reasons, but I'm feeling that the time is coming soon that I'll have to do that as well, and hold myself accountable for all the actions that I take, simply to force myself to keep working harder and harder and to take things more seriously. Getting back to the very beginning of this episode, the procrastination part is a big one for me. And it's so easy to get distracted and go on Facebook and YouTube and Instagram or whatever to avoid working. And yes, sometimes it is incredibly hard to be creative or to come up with an idea for your blog post or for whatever that you do. But just wasting your time on social media is not going to help you get creative or motivated most of the time. So that's another great idea. And as I already mentioned, either asking a friend of yours for help or someone close to you, or reaching out to a successful person who inspires you, or maybe even hiring a professional coach who will help you get closer to your goals and who will help you move forward. All right, so that's about it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it, and you could check out the show notes for this episode at extrapodcast.com/31. I'm not sure what I'll be sharing on that page yet. Probably I'll talk about some books and some resources you could check out to help you get motivated. I'll certainly post some of my favorite YouTube videos, which always help me move forward and always help me start thinking straight and, actually closing down the YouTube and getting some work done. Of course, you could sign up to the show if you haven't already at iTunes store. Simply search for Extra Paycheck Podcast or go to extrapodcast.com/iTunes. Thank you for listening to this episode, and I'll talk to you next Monday.